The Call of the Mountains, when intuition calls us together before we know the reason why. Stephen King's The Stand has always been one of my favorite books. I first devoured it around age 13 and have reread it at least a handful of times since. It lingers in my imagination not just because of the epic battle between light and dark, but because of the quiet mystery of the survivors who found themselves compelled, without knowing why, to gather in Colorado and Las Vegas. They were pulled by something larger than themselves. Since moving under the gaze of the Blue Ridge Mountains, I found myself thinking about this more and more. I keep meeting people who've recently relocated here, and the similarities in their stories are uncanny. So many say some version of, I don't know why I came, but I knew I was supposed to. When I first settled in Northern Virginia, I chose it for practical reasons. Endless opportunities, schools for my kids, and the sheer diversity. I remember my mom's then boyfriend visiting from Connecticut, walking into a grocery store and exclaiming that it looked like the United Nations. It was easy to meet people from all over the world, but finding deep, lasting community was harder. Tribes were big, fluid, and often inconsistent. The busyness of the DC area, almost celebrated as a badge of honor, meant everyone was stretched thin. Conversations revolved around resumes, job titles, who you knew. Perhaps that's why I gravitated toward kink and swinger communities. In those spaces, people avoided the mundane small talk. Instead of, what do you do? The conversation turned toward adventures, boundaries, desires, living outside the ordinary scripts. But here in the Blue Ridge, the tone is different. Conversations lean toward the soul. People talk about the 3D and the 5D without hesitation, as if it's just a shared language we all already know. There was no Mother Abigail calling us in dreams, no prophet gathering the scattered survivors. Instead, it's been a deep inner knowing. It just felt right to be here. And so, many of us find ourselves pulled together. I've written about the women's circle that recently formed, and I just attended a holistic leadership meeting with 40 healers gathered in one room. The synergy was palpable, stories weaving, hearts open, feminine energy filling the space. And yet what stood out was the absence of a mission, a clear why. We all felt we were meant to be there, but what for? How will we use our gifts? Who leads our version of the Boulder Free Zone? Do we have a Stu Redman, a Franny Goldsmith? These questions have been echoing in me, not just about community, but about my personal life too. I followed my intuition here, but now what? How do I make ends meet? What am I being asked to create next? Last week, I joined the Marigold Collective Zoom with my girl and podcast guest, Mage Marigold, and as always, her channeled message landed in me like truth carved into stone. She spoke of anchor moments, transformational junctures in our lives that are predetermined, inevitable, and not subject to the push and pull of free will. For me, I can see them clearly, having my children, meeting my mentor Hartanto, and being called to help build the Ark. Receiving the light of creation in my womb during a psilocybin journey, moving here to these mountains. The choices between those anchor moments, Mage said, are far less important than we think. It's not the checklist of decisions that shapes us, but the vibration, the perspective, the energy we hold as we move through them. That landed like a revelation. I realized connection is the point right now. Not clarity, not strategy, not running toward the next milestone. We don't have to know why we're being called together. We just need to keep showing up, to sit in the circle, to listen, to hold each other, to trust that the anchor moment will arrive in its own time, and when it does, the reason for all of this will become luminous. Until then, we gather, and that is enough. And so I turn to Hestia, keeper of the sacred flame, who reminds us that the act of gathering itself is holy. We may not yet know the mission or the map, but the hearth is already lit. Around its glow we find warmth, belonging, and the steady pulse of community. May we trust that tending this fire, showing up, listening, holding each other, is enough. The anchor moment will come, and when it does, the path will illuminate like sparks rising from the flame.